Hello, you're here with Miss Libby Rose, and today we're going to be making the Fun Fat Quarter Summer Skirt with applique, if you'd like. What you will need for this project is, first of all, the pattern. So if you download the pattern, it comes in 2 A4 sheets, and where it says to join, you will join them together, and then you'll have a piece that looks like this. So it's straight on one side and slightly angled out. So that will be your pattern. Once you've stuck it all together, that's your pattern to make the skirt with. You'll also need a pack of fat quarters. Now, how many fat quarters you need is dependent on the size of the person or the little person that you're making for. Generally, I've set this as a child's skirt, but if you add more panels, then you can make it for any size at all. I've started with 4 fat quarters, and that's generally for a child's skirt. So I've got 4 out of my pack of fat quarters. Also a piece of elastic, and the thickness, you can do it as an inch thick. You can use it wider or smaller if you like, but generally if you use a 1 to 2 inch wide elastic. Now, the length of the elastic that you'll need is the size of the person that you're making it for. So if you measure around the person and pull it in tight so it's got a little bit of strength in there, and then it needs to overlap so you've got a spot to stitch, and then you've got the length that you need of elastic. I'm doing applique on mine, so I've cut out a heart with embroidery on it, polka dots and moonbeams. It's going to be a polka dots and moonbeams skirt. So I've got my polka dot heart all cut out, plus there's heat and bond or Bondaweb. You can get Bondaweb in these smaller packs as well, but I've just got it on the roll, and that's all I've got to show you today. So Bondaweb, or you can get these packs of heat and bond in Hobbycraft. And then you will just need, you need a safety pin for your elastic as well when we're threading through the elastic. And then you just need your general sewing tools, so your sewing machine and scissors and things like that. So if you've gathered up all your equipment, you can start to get cutting. So you have your pattern, and lay your fat quarter on the fold, okay? So fold it. And you generally fold it about 3/4 over. Lay your pattern so you've got this as a nice straight line on your fold, and then cut around the edge. Now, as I said, I'm starting with 4 pieces. So if you're making for a child, you could start with 4, and then you can try on and see how you go. So get those panels all cut out and get all of those bits ready, and then we can get started on our sewing. So I've got all the panels ready. I open up one and I lay the next one, the one that's going to go next to it, on top. So I've got right sides together. I pin down one of the lines only, and then you stitch along that line. Now, if you'd like to at this point, you could do your zigzag or overlock along the edges as well. But if you don't want to, just stitch a straight line. And if you leave just the edge of the foot against the edge of the seam, that will do well. So just the edge of the fabric against the edge of the foot, and then you've done your first seam. Now, I've done down this seam, I open up. Then I attach the next one, being careful to attach the right colour that the person that you're making it for wants. So this is very multicoloured, brightly polka dot and fabulous. So then I just open up and I do exactly the same to the next side. So I put right sides together, sew down that seam. Then I'm going to open up this one, put right sides together, and sew down that seam there. Now I have all my panels stitched up in one brilliant loop. And I will say this again, that it is good practice to go back along these seams and just to go along the edge, either with your overlocker if you're an overlocker user, or with a zigzag stitch, just to neaten off these edges. So do that if you wish. Okay, so next I am going to, we want to work out how to put this elastic in, all right? So there is a guide on the pattern. I have written a guide, but best to use what the elastic that you're using, okay? Because I've drawn up a guide with using what I've used, but if you use a different width of elastic, it's absolutely fine. But just now use that as your guide, okay? So I'll show you. We turn down the top. Can you see? I've turned that down. And this wants to fit in that. So we're going to create a channel and we want this elastic to fit in that channel. So I fold it down and I know that that is plenty enough for the elastic to fit in the channel. And I'm going to go along and turn up underneath the channel just to make it nice and neat. So a tiny 1/2 centimetre turn up, and then enough along here to leave for your elastic. Okay, so if it's 1 inch or 2 inch elastic, you want it wide enough here so that we can feed it through. So take the time now to go along and pin. And there will be, can you see here, there will be a slight, you want to join up your seams, but because of the angle that we've cut to make it into a nice cool sort of A-liney type of skirt, the tops are smaller. So you will have to gather in ever so slightly when you get to a seam so that the seams will match each other when they're folded down. So now you can go along and create that channel with the 1 centimetre turn up underneath. Use your pins and perhaps your iron as well to make a nice flat channel and pin the whole way around that top. Okay, so now we've got our top all stitched in. And you can see some of it, you can see my stitching, and other bits you can't. Now I've done it as well, so if that's, I just hope it wasn't frustrating you, but these little bits you can gather them in, okay? So you can just gather them in because they're going to get the elastic is going to sort of take that look away anyway. All right, so now speaking of elastic, I go to the little hole that we left in our stitching. So I've got a hole there and I take my elastic and my safety pin. So I pop the safety pin in the end, and now we're going to thread it the whole way through. So you might want to pin one edge here as well so it doesn't get lost in there. I do that sometimes. Just pin this other side here so that as you're threading around, that one doesn't slip on through. And then I simply thread through the channel. So thread, thread, thread the elastic the whole way through until you meet it back again here. Okay, so now I've threaded through that elastic, and you will see that it absolutely doesn't matter at all that there were any little tucks when you were stitching around, because they've gone into that lovely gathering that the elastic has given. So we've got this super cool skirt, and we've got 2 pieces of elastic at the end, which I've just flipped one of them back in, which you'll find is often a thing with threading drawstrings, threading elastics. One of them flips itself back inside is not very fun at all, especially that's the one without the safety pin on it. Come on. Right, so luckily it didn't get too far in there. Out you come. Right, so as I said, I've got two pieces here and they're not going back inside. Now, the thing you really need to check is that it hasn't gone topsy-turvy. So we don't have any twists in our elastic. So feel it the whole way around that there's no twists in there. And once you're happy, then pull the two pieces out, overlay them over each other and do a zigzag back and forth to really hold it in, because you want to give that a lot of strength, that stitch. Okay, so you can pull it out as far as you can, go to your machine, perhaps put a pin in there if you like, go back to your machine, guess it's on the zigzag, so number 7 here, and I'm going to go backwards and forwards a fair few times. So up and back, up and back. So I'm really sure that that elastic is going to hold on to each other. Okay, out we come. And then that will flip back into the skirt. No twists, hurrah! And then go to your hole and try and get that bit, push all the gathering elsewhere so that you can just stitch up this hole, remembering your stitch type. Phew, I just remembered what number I was doing before. Right, so I'm back to here and now I'm going to close up my gap now because I'm happy with my elastic. You could actually try it on your participant as well if you like. So you could try it on the person just to make sure that the elastic's fine for them as well. And then stitch up your hole. So that shouldn't take too much to just stitch up that last hole. And a little bit of backwards. And then I'm on to the hem. So get rid of any of those straggly threads that are hanging around. And I'll go to the bottom here. And again, if you've tried it on, then you'll make sure that you're happy with the hem. If you're happy and don't need to cut it, if you can cut it, you need to. You could just cut it shorter if you needed to. But I think I'm happy. So now we're going to create a hem the whole way around the bottom. So we fold it once, 1 centimetre, then fold it again. So you're folding it twice, kind of like what we did with the channel up there, but this is just for a hem. So 1 centimetre and 1 centimetre, get a pin in there. And what is nice, especially if you're using some cotton fat quarters, go around with an iron as well and it will make it a lot easier. So 1 centimetre, 1 centimetre, pin. And keep going around the whole bottom of the skirt. I'm going to do mine with an iron and I suggest that you do as well. 1 centimetre, 1, and then a little line over the top and then a pin. Okay, so now I have turned it up the whole way around the bottom. I'm going to do my fancy stitch again the whole way. You don't have to. You can choose whatever you choose to do at the top. I would say do it for fun along the bottom as well. So now I've done the waist, I've done the hem, and the last thing of all for me to add, which you certainly don't have to, but I'd like to put some appliqué on. So I've got my polka dots and moonbeams appliqué and I'm going to put it between the pink and the blue spots. Just for fun, that's what I've just decided to do. So I've attached the Bondaweb to the back, or the heat and bond, you can use whatever. And I'm going to peel off the paper now so that I can stick this down so that I can stick this down onto the skirt. So I'm going to attach it here between the yellow and the pink. Iron it on. So I'm going to go around the edge and stitch on this applique. I set up the foot so the middle line of the foot is in the middle of the heart line, so that I will go on, off, on, off. I'm still using the fancy stitch. I'm using number 17 on this machine. So I'm using a fancy stitch to go round the edge, and you can use zigzag or any type of stitch. Just don't use straight because you want to be on, off the edge. So now I'm just going to follow it the whole way around, following that heart around. And there we are, one very cool polka dots and moonbeams summer fat quarter skirt, all finished and done. I hope you enjoyed making that as much as I did, and I would love to see your makes or hear your questions or comments. And yes, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, Facebook and on YouTube. And yeah, I'd love to see you for the next make too. All right, bye for now.